Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I am your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout their business career and share them with us so we can learn from it as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. But for today's show, our special guest is Cheryl Thacker. She is the owner of Successful Coaches Enterprise and the SCE Coaching Academy, providing coach certification programs and business coaching. So, Cheryl, welcome to the call today. And I want to start off with a question that I always love to ask on the beginning of these interviews. And that is this: if you were able to somehow go back in time to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Jason. And the number one, and I talk about this a lot, the number one piece of advice would be for me to get help earlier on than I did. I waited till two plus years before I hired a coach, and it as soon as I did, it made like I can't even tell you the difference was astronomical. And I struggled for the first 2 years, like many coaches and entrepreneurs do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So get a coach. I I always say that as well. I'd be interested on your take because I know you do a lot of coaching and coaching programs and stuff. Um, what do you think is that hesitation, particularly when it comes to coaches and consultants, on
Yeah,
them actually hiring a coach to help them move forwards? Why is that?
I think it's a mindset thing. I think that we kind of think like, well, we're the ones that are the coach. Why should we have to hire somebody? Or we're the consultant. Why should we have to hire somebody? I mean, I came from a corporate background where I grew my corporate's business. So I had that business experience. I had finance experience. I had a lot of different experience. And I thought, well, I don't need anybody. I can do this. But the bottom line is it's so much different when it's for yourself, and you can't see things in the right way. You can't make decisions because you don't have all the information that you need from a different view than your own. That's really the
Hmm.
bottom line. And it takes so much time to get out of that. Once you then you start to dig in. So you start out, right? And you're like, okay, I'm struggling here, but I can do this. I can get better. And you start digging in and digging in and digging in, and then you're at a point where you're like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah, it's like yeah, you just get stuck. I think it's really interesting because um, I think some of it comes down that when it's not your own business, you kind of disassociate a lot of stuff, and it's just like the weight of the responsibility you feel at it as an
Yeah,
employee, but it's different. And when it's your own thing, it's like, if you're working for a place and the business fails, you kind of go, okay, well, that wasn't me, But when it's your
yeah,
business, it's like, it has such a different impact and the psychological impact that it has for sure. So I totally agree. I
yeah.
think coaching is a huge thing. Is there, if anyone's listening, whether they're brand new in their business or whether they're quite established in their business, is there any particular type of coaching that you would recommend first for people going, what's the best thing to be working on first?
Well, I think that really depends on the person. It's a lot more, I think anyway, it's a lot more customizable in the beginning than
Mm,
once you are established, then I mean things are still you can still customize things, but you have a pattern, you have stuff already out there that you have to take into consideration. In the beginning, there's just so many different ways to go and so many different things that you can do that I think getting a strategist, a business coach that's going to look at your whole picture and help you to actually launch and get started in the business. Or if you've already started and you're just struggling, just to put it all together, help you put it all together. That's the big piece. As you get further on, you can look at, different branding and, there's different pieces that you can attack separately. But in the beginning, You need that person that can look at the whole picture and give you some really good foundational pieces to get started and get clients and grow your business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When we look at growing your business, as you just said there, what's the number one biggest challenge that you faced in your business, and what's the lesson that you learned from that?
I think the biggest challenge was, um, getting visible back then because we didn't have the opportunity that we have now. But I say that, but there's a caveat here because even though we have all this opportunity now, it's still getting visible for people. The new coaches that I work with, it's getting getting over the fear of putting yourself out there and on different platforms on social media. It's the fear of like introducing yourself as a coach, in the beginning when you don't have any clients yet, or if you're established and you're trying to like expand and go into different areas. It just those things kind of weigh on you, and I think that that's a challenge for everybody is just getting the visibility and pushing past it. And then of course as you get more established, it gets easier to do that, but I think that that's a big issue for a lot of people.
Yeah. Are there any tips that you've learned that just help whether you're new or more established? Because you're right, like the visibility piece, it's kind of always there that you're working on. It kind of changes as you grow in your business, but any
Yeah.
particular thought processes that maybe have helped you to be able to work through that?
Well, I think for if I look at the newer coaches, it's really like, for instance, on Facebook we have now the professional um, profile that you can have, right? You can treat it like a business, and people are so afraid to do that. Like, oh, my family will see I'm doing this, or my boss might see me doing that, or whatever the case is. But the bottom line is you have to be all in because if you're just going to dip your toes in, you're not going to really get to where you want to be. And it's okay
Mhm.
to do it part time at first. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't mean time wise, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about commitment wise. You can't dip your toes into it. So don't be afraid of what other people are going to say or think. That's my biggest piece of advice. You have to
Yeah.
look at what you want to do, how you want to help people, what you want to accomplish for them and for yourself, and what are your goals? Are you trying to create freedom for yourself? Are you trying to, you know, build a path for somebody else, or like what is your goal there, and then do that, stick to it and do it, and just don't worry about what other people are going to say. I left a really good job. I was a corporate officer and I was making six figures, and this was 16 years ago, and I left a really good job, and I had family. Now they mean the best, right? They're just looking out for you, but I had family left and right. I have a huge family. You have three kids to raise, you had benefits, you had this, you had that. What are you doing? And I heard that for a year and a half, almost 2 years, and it can start to weigh on you,
Yeah.
and it influences your decisions. So you have to let that all go. That's fine. They can have those opinions, and I'm not saying that they're not coming from a loving place, but it shouldn't impact you. So you have
Yeah.
to work that out as well, and just
Yeah.
not listen to anybody else.
Yeah, yeah, no, lots of things that you've said in that, Cheryl, that you can pull out. One of the things, and I think that's a great distinction that you said is you got to be all in, but that doesn't mean full time. You can still be part time, but it's all in mentally in what you're doing, and I think that's a really big thing for a lot of people. Particularly starting off, I've never
Yeah.
quite understood it because I've never really dealt with that. It's like I don't really care what people think or what I'm doing with it. Like I'm gonna do it. But there is a big hesitation I've found from people like, what am my family gonna think? Or I don't want these people. It's like, why? Like you just go do it. So I think it's a lot of fear and there's a lot of reasons why people might feel that. But
Yeah.
I love what you said as well, about it not just not worrying about what people think around it, just really just being all in and you have to and being seen and allowing yourself to have that and not listening to, you know, probably well-intended people. They're not always well-intended, but I think most of the time they are. But yeah, go against the grain. Um, When you look at let's say over the next 2 to 3 years of the business and what you're wanting to do and grow, what are you wanting to achieve?
Yeah, so I just launched my academy. So I've been a business coach for 16 years and a mentor, a coach mentor, and I actually
Mm,
was the training director for the school where I got my certifications.
okay.
So I did that part time for the school and help them grow and solidify their programs. And then I decided that I was going to go and do my own as well. So I launched that last year, and I have my accreditations through the International Coaching Federation now. And so that is my focus for the next 5 years, actually, is to grow that school to a thriving coaching academy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. When when you've made that shift from what you were doing into this next transition into your business, what were the challenges that you had with that? I know that you probably were driven towards it, but I just know that as you shift in business and you begin to grow, there's always that leveling up resistance that we have to deal with.
Yeah, well, there's a fear there, right? Like I taught at this other school for a good many years, but I also knew
Mm,
for a good many years that there was a program that I wanted, which is based on emotional intelligence. And because I'm a big fan of emotional intelligence, and I also I'm accredited to give the assessments for it. So I've been doing that along with my business coaching. But what I really saw was that the people that were coming through that program would go and say they were going to start their businesses and come back 2 to 3 years later. I don't have a business yet. I don't have clients. I don't have, I don't know how to market myself or what have you. And that's actually what really solidified me being a business coach, is I was able to help those students. And then I expanded, into my own company for it. So when I went to look at creating like the whole package, the whole path for people so that they can have their own version of their freedom, right? What's going to help make a big impact in their life? Because me being able to leave my corporate job and do things with my kids, because I was working 70 hours a week and not seeing my kids. That was a huge thing for me. Being able to travel
mm,
was another huge thing for me. So those two things were kind of a big freedom break for me. And I wanted to be able to do the whole thing, not just the business coaching side. I wanted to be able to bring the materials that I like in emotional intelligence through that coach certification process and then help them to launch. And so that's what I did, is I created the full gambit. So now they can come in, they can get certified, they can get credentialed as well through the ICF, and then we help them to launch their business and then to grow their business. So um,
mm.
there's a fear there that, I'm leaving that atmosphere where somebody else created the materials, it's proven, and I helped prove it over the years, so I know it was proven. And then putting my own stuff out there and waiting to see what happens.
Yeah.
So there's that fear, and there's the hesitation of like, will anybody, will anybody come? Will anybody do it? It's just kind of like starting over, except I have a pretty big fan and coach client base from the past 16 years, but still it's a little nerve-wracking. And the fear was to just, do I do it? Do I take that risk? It's a financial factor as well. Like, it's a whole different ball game as far as, you have to invest in a whole different way. You have to pull back, how to pull back on the business coaching side, so that impacts you financially, and then input onto the coaching academy side.
Mm.
But once you work all that out, it gets easier. So it's just kind of having the patience and not letting the fear get you stuck. Because I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, but that doesn't mean that I don't get nervous about doing new things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love that. I love what you're saying with that because the way I look at it is I look at it as like a video game almost. You go to that next level and it's like, oh no, what do I do now? This is different. It's unfamiliar territory. It's the same, oftentimes the same lessons you learned before, but just on a different level. And but there's new ways on how to pass that. And I think the way you
Yeah,
described that is beautiful. And it just really brings that together. And no matter where people are in their business, whether they're brand new or been established for a long time, if you're growing, you're going to have that discomfort level because it means you're moving into new territory that you just never been before. And it's normal to feel that way. And I think that's
absolutely.
great. I think it's great that you've said that. Well, sure. For people wanting to learn a little bit more about you or in what you provide, what's the best place for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so my main website is successfulcoaches.com and the academy is SCE Coaching Academy, SCEcoachingacademy.com. And I mostly hang out on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I definitely recommend everyone checking out Cheryl on the different places that she just mentioned there. And Cheryl, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Some really great insights that you shared. And as a reminder to everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.